The discussion about who is the greatest featherweight fighter in MMA history often divides opinions. Over the years, legendary names such as Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, and Alexander Volkanovski helped build the identity of the UFC's 145-pound division, each with remarkable achievements, long reigns, and historic battles. However, for Artem Lobov, former UFC fighter and ex-training partner of Conor McGregor, this conversation can be narrowed down to just two names: Conor McGregor and Ilia Topuria. Lobov, known as the Russian Hammer, was directly involved in McGregor's meteoric rise in the UFC, closely following his preparation, training sessions, and evolution toward the championship belt. Now retired, he has analyzed the current stage of Ilia Topuria's career and has not hidden his admiration for the Spanish-Georgian champion, but made a point of placing his old teammate at the top of his personal list. In an interview, Lobov explained his view on Topuria's style, highlighting his main strengths inside the octagon. "I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of Ilia. His style is amazing. He's got high-level striking, he's very brave, he fights aggressively, he comes forward without fear, he's got solid wrestling. I rank him very, very highly. But I still think that if I'm really honest, and maybe I'm a little biased, Conor at his peak still had the edge. Watching Conor at his peak was unbelievable. He was simply untouchable. I saw him in training wipe out 5 guys in a row, one by one, all coming in fresh, including me, and he didn't even break a sweat. He was a killer. So for me, maybe I'm being partial, but it's hard to imagine anyone doing anything against that Conor. I feel like Conor could have beaten anyone. For me, he could have beaten even Floyd Mayweather and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Even while praising McGregor as unbeatable at his peak, Lobov made sure to acknowledge the greatness of Topuria and what he represents in today's featherweight division. Ilia is probably very close, right behind Conor at his best. Right now, Ilia is the best. No doubt about it, he's number one now, and he's as dominant as he is exciting to watch. I love watching his fights. Lobov's words are revealing not only because of the direct comparison between two generations, but also because of the weight of his experience. He was at the peak of SBG alongside McGregor, saw firsthand the intensity of the Irishman's training, and now watches from a distance the meteoric rise of Topuria, who captured the featherweight title with an explosive and aggressive style that quickly turned him into one of the most popular fighters of the present day. Beyond his sporting analysis, Lobov also returned to the spotlight due to his unexpected decision to come back to competition. After retiring in 2021, when he suffered a bare-knuckle boxing loss to Denis Berinchik, the Russian-born Irishman announced that he will step into the cage again in a clash filled with history. On October 3rd, he will face Zubaira Tukhugov, a teammate of Khabib Nurmagomedov. At the PFL Champion Series 3, the matchup carries special meaning, as it was originally scheduled to happen 7 years ago, but was cancelled during the chaotic UFC 223 fight week. At the time, the fight was scrapped following the infamous incident in which Conor McGregor attacked the bus carrying Khabib Nurmagomedov and other fighters. In retaliation for the treatment Artem Lobov had received from members of the Russians' team, the chaos produced one of the most iconic and controversial moments in recent UFC history, forever cementing the rivalry between McGregor and Khabib. Now, Lobov and Tukhugov will finally have the chance to settle the score in a fight that carries not only personal rivalry, but also echoes of one of MMA's greatest feuds. Dana White once again spoke about the future of Conor McGregor and made it clear that, although there is no official guarantee, the Irishman remains central to the UFC's plans for 2026. The organization's president already has his mindset on putting together the historic event that will take place at the White House, and hinted that he wants a major star to headline this unprecedented card. According to White, the intention is to begin organizing the show in early 2026, but much could change until then. Jon Jones's name has even been mentioned, but the president does not seem convinced that the current heavyweight champion is the right choice, especially given Jones's problematic history inside and outside the octagon. Conor McGregor, on the other hand, has a career defined by showing up precisely when the UFC most needs him, even though his future is still surrounded by uncertainty. What stands out is that McGregor truly seems willing to return. After years of speculation, training videos, and scattered statements on social media, the Irishman has shown signs of commitment to making his comeback at the White House event in 2026. Even so, many fans remain skeptical, believing the MMA legend has already closed the door on his octagon career for good. One reason for this doubt is the number of distractions McGregor has taken on over the years, including his brief run for the presidency of Ireland, which he recently abandoned. That decision at least removed one concern and may open the way for him to refocus on training. It was on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast that Dana White was directly asked about McGregor's seriousness regarding a return. The president's response was telling. So, Conor says he's coming back. He's in the USADA testing pool. He's doing what he needs to do. There's all kinds of footage of him training. He wants to fight on that White House card. We'll see. We won't start building that event until February. He and I have been talking non-stop, and he's been saying, I'm serious. I want this. I'm training. I'm back in the pool. I'm doing everything. So we'll see. We still have a long way to go. What I want to do is build the best card we've ever put together. Something that makes people go crazy. Live and free on CBS, straight from the White House. For the people. Even in other countries, everyone will want to watch. And the way we're setting this up, when the cameras shoot the fight, the White House will be in the background. When they change the angle, the Washington Monument will be on the other side. White's words show not only his excitement about possibly having McGregor on the card, but also the scale of the event. This is a show designed to go beyond the limits of sport and reach even those who don't normally follow MMA. It's worth remembering that McGregor hasn't fought since 2021, yet he is still seen as the natural favorite to headline the White House event. That's mainly because of his star power, and the fact that the UFC currently has few other fighters capable of carrying a card of this magnitude on their own. In recent years, the narrative has grown that the UFC is suffering from a star crisis, with many champions unable to reach the level of popularity the organization had in earlier eras. Dana White, however, completely rejects this idea. During the same podcast, he even cited the billion-dollar deal recently signed with Paramount, valued at $7.7 billion, as proof of the brand's strength. When I hear this talk that we have a superstar problem, or that we have this or that issue, my answer is, trust me when I say, we don't have any problem at all. With that, the stage is set. If Conor McGregor really comes back, the platform will be the biggest ever offered in UFC history. The White House, in a globally televised event broadcast live and free. There's still a long road ahead until February, when card building will officially begin. But Dana White seems ready to bet everything on his biggest star to turn this moment into a milestone in sports history. Michael Chandler has never given up on the idea of facing Conor McGregor, even after so many frustrations along the way. The initial plan was for the two to meet after serving as coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. But what once seemed certain turned into a never-ending saga. Delays, injuries, and finally, the official cancellation of the fight forced Chandler to move on. In the meantime, the former lightweight title challenger signed on to fight Charles Oliveira and Paddy Pimblett. Still, in his mind, one thing was clear. If McGregor truly returned, he needed to be the first name considered for the matchup. Now that patience may finally pay off, as the Irishman has publicly declared his desire to headline the first, and possibly only, UFC event at the White House in 2026. Something Dana White himself has taken seriously, although no contract has been signed yet. Chandler made it clear that he has never been more confident that this fight could happen. In his words, I think we're closer now than we've ever been. I always said that if you were a betting man, you probably wouldn't put money on his return, but now this changes things quite a bit. Deep down in my heart, I believe I'm going to fight Conor McGregor at the White House. And it makes sense for 1,000 different reasons. But beyond the unfinished rivalry with McGregor, Chandler also admits that his biggest focus is securing a spot on this historic card. Nearly every fighter under UFC contract has made the same request, but Chandler believes his explosive style and ability to draw fans put him at an advantage in the race for this special opportunity. He emphasized, first and foremost, I want the White House. If it's against Conor, that would be incredible. We have unfinished business. I respect him, he respects me, but we've got things to settle. He's already shown interest. When he posted that AI-generated image of us, it was a way of poking at me. He already called me out on Twitter saying we've got unfinished business. And we do. We'd be the only Ultimate Fighter coaches not to fight each other, despite being in the same weight class. So for me and for him, it makes all the sense in the world. Another point Chandler highlighted is his reliability, something he believes will weigh heavily when selecting fighters for the White House card. I've never pulled out of a fight. I've never missed weight. The most important thing for this card is that when you build something of this magnitude, it's not just about booking the best fights. It's about building the most reliable ones. Which fighters and matchups are most likely to actually happen on the White House lawn? In this crazy sport, there are no guarantees, but I'm as close to one as you can get. If I can physically make it to the octagon, I'll be there. The door will close, and I'll put on a show for the fans. Still, when it comes to McGregor, even Chandler admits that his confidence has been shaken before. After all, it has been more than 4 years since the Irishman last stepped into the octagon. First came the horrific leg break against Dustin Poirier in 2021. Then, in 2024, a toe fracture stopped the very fight against Chandler. During this time, McGregor has often spoken about returning, but rarely with the same enthusiasm and conviction he has now, declaring his desire to headline the White House event. And it was precisely the scale of this card that made Chandler shift his perspective. I think we're definitely a lot closer now than we've ever been. I heard comments from David Feldman, his business partner at BKFC, and people close to him said the same. His exit from the presidential race in Ireland also helps redirect his focus back to training. I've always said this. We fighters get into this sport chasing the biggest fights, the brightest lights, the most money, the biggest crowds. Conor was no different. He always broke pay-per-view records and was part of the biggest spectacles possible. That's the DNA of the Conor McGregor brand, and it's exactly what we all want too. So, when this White House card was announced and he spoke up, it seemed kind of uncertain at first, but if there's one event that could mark his return, it's certainly this one. For Chandler, it may sound like the same saga repeating once again, but this time, he insists he's willing to wait. Not only for McGregor, but for the chance to be part of the most historic UFC event ever. Nothing is guaranteed until contracts are signed, but the American is fully convinced. If Conor McGregor truly returns for the White House card, his name must be standing on the other side of the octagon. Dana White has once again spoken about the behind-the-scenes preparations for the historic UFC event that will take place at the White House in June 2026. The president of the world's biggest MMA promotion has recently been in Washington to align details about the structure and logistics of this show, which promises to be one of the most remarkable in the sport's history. Since the idea was announced, fans and journalists have raised several questions, especially about how the audience will be selected to watch the fights live on the most famous lawn in the United States. According to White, this kind of preparation is completely different from any other event the UFC has ever held. He emphasized that, unlike traditional arenas and stadiums, the White House lawn was not designed to host sporting events, which makes the challenges much greater. The concern is not only about structure, but also about the public's experience and the image that will be broadcast to millions of viewers worldwide. In an interview with the Impulsive podcast, hosted by Logan Paul, White was asked about the atmosphere he intends to create at the event. Logan compared it to a recent boxing match held in Times Square, New York, which was heavily criticized precisely for its lack of atmosphere and the difficulty of generating emotion in an open space. White, however, made it clear that this is not his main concern. For him, what matters is the uniqueness of the occasion. There's gonna be less than 5,000 people there. I don't give a damn if there's just one person and it's him. I'd do this event even without a crowd, if that's what it took. Being on the White House lawn, with the White House itself as the backdrop, that's what matters. If it was about the crowd, I'd do it in the park next door. There, if I built bleachers and everything else, you could fit about 30,000 people. But I can do that in any park, anytime. White also explained that the COVID-19 pandemic ended up changing his perspective on this kind of experience. After promoting historic cards in empty arenas, he realized that while the presence of fans is important, it's not essential when it comes to creating an unforgettable moment. Before COVID, I probably would have thought differently about this. But during the pandemic, we did fights with nobody there, and the event still had impact. This White House moment is not about ticket sales. It's not about the noise of the crowd. It's about the symbolism. It's about being at the White House. One of the biggest curiosities among fans was understanding who would have the privilege of occupying those fewer than 5,000 seats. And on this point, Dana White was direct. It won't be the UFC deciding. For reasons of national security, everyone present will have to go through strict checks, which takes the choice out of the promotion's hands. Still, White suggested a solution that, in his view, would bring even more symbolism to the occasion. I think the president should invite the military. You've got Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Put those guys there. Just military in the crowd. Dana White's statements make it clear that the focus won't be on turning the White House lawn into a conventional arena, but rather on creating a one-of-a-kind spectacle, broadcast live to the entire world. With a limited crowd, reinforced security checks, and an iconic setting, the UFC plans to deliver a show that goes beyond sport, blending fighting, politics, and history on the same stage.